9 people have died in a hotel fire in Kolkata, India. The fire broke out overnight when many of the occupants would have been asleep. And for me, this raises a very simple facility management question. If there was a fire in your building tonight, could the occupants actually get out? Not according to the fire plan, not according to the last inspection report. Could they physically get out tonight? That's what I want to look at in this Ward FM update. The fire occurred in central Kolkata on the 19th of August. At least 9 people were killed, including foreign visitors, and reports following the incidents have raised serious questions about evacuation conditions within the building. There have been reports concerning narrow escape routes and locked windows. The exact circumstances and cause of the fire are still being investigated, so I don't want to speculate about precisely what happened inside this particular building. But there is a facility management lesson here that I think is extremely important. We tend to inspect fire safety as a system. Is the fire alarm working? Have the extinguishers been serviced? Has the sprinkler system been tested? Is the required documentation in place? Those things are obviously important. But there is another question we sometimes don't ask often enough. Can the people in this building actually escape? And did a hotel, residential building, hospital, or any building occupied overnight? That question becomes even more important because at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're dealing with people who are asleep. They may be disorientated. They don't know the building. They may not even speak the local language. They may have mobility difficulties, and they certainly haven't attended your fire drill. So here are 6 things I would want checked before nightfall. Number 1, physically walk every escape route. Don't just look at the evacuation drawing. Walk it. Start in a guest room, office, or occupied area and follow exactly the route somebody would have to use to reach safety. Are the corridors clear? Are the doors unlocked? Has furniture been moved into the route? Has stock been stored in a stairwell? Does the route eventually take you somewhere genuinely safe? And importantly, check it in the condition in which the building actually operates after hours. I've said this many times in facility management. The condition on the ground is what matters. A perfect drawing doesn't help you if somebody has put a trolley in front of the emergency exit. Number 2, check the emergency lighting. Now imagine that same escape route without normal power and then add smoke. Can somebody who has never been in your building before still work out where to go? Check the emergency lights, check the exit signs, look at them from the occupant's perspective, not from the perspective of somebody who already knows the building. If I come out in a room in darkness, is it obvious where I need to go? And don't simply look up and see whether the fitting is there. Test it. The question isn't whether you have emergency lighting. The question is whether it will work when the normal power doesn't. Number 3, test the fire alarm from where people actually sleep. This is particularly important in hotels and residential facilities. Don't assume that because the fire panel says everything is healthy, everybody can hear the alarm. Can it be heard inside the rooms? What about behind a closed door? What arrangements exist for people with hearing impairments? And importantly, would somebody recognize that sound as an instruction to evacuate? A technically functioning alarm isn't much use if the people who need to respond to it don't hear it or don't understand what it means. Number 4, inspect the fire doors. Fire doors aren't ordinary doors. Their job is to restrict the movement of smoke and protect escape routes. Look for doors being wedged open. Check the self-closing devices. Check that the doors close properly. Look for damage and make sure people haven't defeated the system simply because keeping a door open is operationally more convenient. This is something we see in the buildings all the time. A relatively small operational shortcut can have very serious consequences during a fire. Number 5, check your after-hours readiness. This is a big one for me, and it's something I think facility managers sometimes overlook. Most buildings operate very differently at night, over weekends, and on public holidays. During the day, you normally have more people around. You might have a facility manager, a building manager, maintenance supervisor, or security manager, or perhaps even another senior person on site. If something happens, there's normally somebody experienced who naturally takes responsibility. But what happens after hours? And here's another scenario I've seen many times. You have an operator or staff member who normally works day shift. They know the building extremely well. They know the tenants. They know the plant. They understand the access arrangements. They know who to call. They're completely comfortable with the building during the day. Then somebody on night shift goes on leave, or somebody is sick, and suddenly that day shift employee is asked to cover the night shift. Now the situation is completely different. The senior manager who normally takes responsibility isn't there. There are fewer people in the building. Some entrances may be locked. Certain lifts may operate differently. Section of the building may be closed. Access controls may have changed. Security procedures may be different. Contractors and maintenance staff who are normally available during the day may not be available at all. Somebody who knows that building extremely well during normal hours can become almost as unfamiliar with its after hours operation as a visitor. That is a real risk. So don't only ask, does the night shift person know the emergency procedure? Ask, do they understand how this building operates after hours? And then take it one step further. What happens if the person who normally runs the night shift isn't there? Who has the authority to make decisions? Who directs the occupants? Who meets the emergency services? Who checks the common areas? And who accounts for guests, staff, or contractors? And who takes control if the senior person everyone normally relies on is sitting at home? This is why an emergency plan cannot depend on one experienced individual. The system has to survive the absence of the person. You need an emergency arrangement that still works when somebody is sick, somebody is on leave, shifts change, or the building is operating differently from normal. And I think this is an important facility management principle. A building that is safe and well managed at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday morning may be a very different building at 2 o'clock on a Sunday morning. We have to manage both. Number 6, accountability. Once people have evacuated, can you determine whether everybody is out? Hotels have an advantage because they normally have a guest register or electronic booking system. But can you actually access that information during an emergency? What happens if the power is off? What happens if the computer at the reception isn't accessible? And don't forget that the people inside aren't necessarily only registered guests. You may have staff, contractors, visitors, people in restaurants, people attending functions or conferences. So ask yourself, how would we know whether somebody was still inside? And equally importantly, who is responsible for establishing that? Because the fire service needs reliable information. Saying, I think everybody is out isn't the same as knowing. Now, I want to make an important distinction here. I'm not saying that these 6 issues caused the deaths in Kolkata. The investigation needs to establish exactly what happened. But incidents like this give facility managers an opportunity to look at our own buildings differently. We don't have to wait for the final investigation report before asking whether similar vulnerabilities could exist in our facilities. So here's something practical you can do. The next time your building moves into its after-hours operation, walk it. Start at the furthest occupied room. Follow the escape route. Look at the exit doors. Look at the signs. Check the emergency lighting. Look at the fire doors. Speak to the person on duty, and particularly speak to anybody covering a shift they don't normally work. Ask them, if the alarm goes off right now, what are you going to do? Their answer may tell you more about your emergency preparedness than another document sitting in your office. And ultimately, ask yourself one very simple question. If something happens tonight, can those people get out? Because fire compliance isn't ultimately about the certificate hanging on the wall. It's about whether the building and the people responsible for it perform when somebody's life depends on them. I'm Gary Ward from Ward Facility Management. If you work in facility management, property, maintenance, or building operations, subscribe to the channel. We take real incidents like this and turn them into practical lessons that you can apply at your own facility. And I'll see you in the next video.